From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, show about pop culture and Star Wars, and sometimes Star Wars and pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Ken Knapsack.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
And we are here today to talk about Star Wars news. That's right, we got a little bit of Star Wars news. It is a bit of a downtime. Skeleton Crew on the way in December. You're going to have a show just ended, and you're going to have the dip. And in the dip, though, we'll find some great things to talk about inside the news of the week. Before we get to all that, we'll remind you that today's podcast, as always, is brought to you by Audible. To get a free audiobook, download, and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles and rising to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. This week, we're recommending a book, almost to remind myself that I have to finish it because it's on my shelf, and I was really enjoying it. The Living Force by Jonathan Jackson Miller. Download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. Ice-flavored ice treats for all today. Joseph, that's our Audible A. You've got our ask.
That is right. You can help us out a lot by checking out our Patreon. We have been looking over about a year and a half ago. We're like, let's look at the core foundations. What are the pillars that hold up ForceCenter? And hey, it's Patreon. We appreciate all the different things that people have done over the years to support us, but that's always the most solid way to support us. So we want to spend a little bit more time making a thing of it. We keep floating right around 400 paid patrons. We would love to get up to 415, a brave new charge up the hill. And at that point, if we get to 415 paid patrons, we'll do a live stream just for patrons. Even if we get to 415 and 2 seconds later, it's down to 414. We understand. We just need to touch that flag once, and then we'll do a live stream exclusively for patrons.
It's the wonderful world of Patreon. Sometimes it's not even, as Joseph does it, and Jennifer, it's not even like that people leave us. It's just that your bank goes, nah, what's Patreon? No, we're denying that charge. It happens a lot, and our goals contract and grow.
Yep.
There we go. All right, we're going to get into some life adventures, catch up just between ourselves and also you out there in the audience of what we do. And I'm doing a life adventures, Star Wars, and I was talking off air. I don't want to get it. I got jumped in a green room Friday night by four other comics. Just jumped for being a Star Wars fan, and good people. Not a-holes, good people. It's just like, oh, you're a Star Wars fan, but what about that last sucky show, right? And I don't know what to do anymore, Joseph, Jennifer. I don't know should I let the Star Wars flag fly higher, or should I fold it up and put it in a bag and just wait till it's safe to come out? I don't know. I ask you for guidance and help.
Jennifer, do you have thoughts? I have thoughts.
No, yeah, share your thoughts.
I think it's entirely a choice for you. I don't think you should do absolutes. I think you should say, today, I don't want to engage, and so I'm going to put on my Oasis t-shirt and direct engagement that way. And then other days you're like, you know what? Screw it. There was one day, I think, in some of the heat of the Acolyte things that I was going somewhere, and I was normally wearing my Jedi shirt, and I was just like, I just don't want to. Don't want to. But then the next day I was like, you know what? I'm ready for this. I'll put my Jedi shirt on and see if anybody engages. Not as an advertisement to engage, but just it happens.
Yeah.
For me, the thing that has been most effective for those conversations is to just say, I understand a lot of criticism. I had some things that didn't work for me, but I really like it. And I think people constantly want to frame the conversation as good or bad, thumbs up or thumbs down. And I think the fastest you can be honest about, there is, in my world, there is no good or bad. There is simply, did you enjoy it or did you not? And I understand that you did not enjoy it, and I respect that. But, the suggestion then is, could you please, respect that I, for the most part, liked it?
Yeah. That's better than what I want to say, which is, well, you're an idiot. I think you're right. No, I'm not getting rid of everything Star Wars at all. No, it's just, you're right. Some days especially us, the three of us have, not only our entire lives have been Star Wars fans, but when you have this show, and a lot of times your credits are introduced at a comedy show and something Star Wars comes up, I talk about Star Wars on stage. So I get it. It's an open invitation for them to go, hey, you're here. Hey, let's talk about the latest Star Wars thing. And I just had to find the polite way to bow out. Maybe it's get up and leave and go for a walk and come back. But
Yeah.
I wanted to start with that because it's a little bit more of a negative life experience. But
Yeah.
you all have probably had better ones.
Well, I'm still Jennifer. Do you have any other thoughts on how to handle that conversation?
I would just say protect your peace. I mean, really protect because we are in the thick of it here and online, and we're seeing things because it's also part of our job to be monitoring what's happening in the fandom, good and bad. And it can be kind of exhausting. So then to have to deal with it in real life and then now have to defend things, it's like, good Lord, just protect your peace. And like Joseph's saying, bring it out when you want to engage. Otherwise, wear something else.
That you're bringing up a good point, and then it just goes beyond us as Star Wars podcasters. If you're out there, you're a Star Wars fan at your workplace, and you're known as a Star Wars fan, you're probably plugged in enough to where you know what's going on. So you know when some folks who just want to. By the way, again, all these guys I was talking to, I'm joking a little bit, good dudes who just wanted to talk pop culture, and I don't think they're aware of all of the stuff and the channels and the grift and the hate and the dangerous words because they're not. So it's hard to. I'm on a speeding train that I suddenly have to stop, and they don't understand that I'm exhausted by it. You're right, Jen. You're right, Joseph. What's your final thought and advice?
I think it is just all about peace. And final thought is it's about perspective. Like, are you talking to somebody else who's in this field of discussing pop culture in depth? Because like I've said, for me, like I think there are people totally good faith who don't even know the horror show that the sexist racist attacks on Acolyte have been, and just like they're in the mood for Han Solo or Obi-Wan Kenobi wins the day, yay. Sit down and watch this incredibly morally complex, dark, challenging show, challenging in a good way. And it's like, for me, I also just gotta have to take a step back and go, where are you coming from?
Yeah. That might be the question. That might be what I ask next time. Where are you coming from?
Where are you coming from, friend?
Where are you coming from? Where are you coming from? I want to know.
You're behind your back, you're putting your gloves on, like, do I need to do this? Do I need to do this?
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that's been my week. I've been trying to get to Star Wars Outlaws. I do not have it yet. I need to pick up another paper route to get it. But I'm excited that everyone's generally having fun with that game too. Looking forward to try that. So that was part of my Star Wars adventures, just kind of watching other people have fun from afar.
It's good. Good.
Jennifer, you?
Yeah, I
Any
had a
fist
Star
fights
Wars
over Star Wars this weekend? Sorry.
only with myself. I felt kind of the same thing recently this past week where I was like, I don't really want to engage with Star Wars as much right now, just because of everything that's been happening with the Acolyte. I just feel a little bit exhausted with the discourse around it and having to defend it because I did love it. And so I was thinking about my Halloween decorations or my Halloween costume. I'm like, should I do something Star Wars related? I always try to do something Star Wars related. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. I don't have to do it. I can do something else, like become a broken Blythe doll, which is what I want to be for Halloween. It was something freeing about it. And I was like, what does this mean for me as a Star Wars fan? I was really questioning it. And then somehow eBay just knew what I wanted, which is Return of the Jedi pajamas, like vintage pajamas. And I was like, could they fit me? Could they? Then all of a sudden, Anissa Coin Bank came up from 1980s. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Before I knew it, I spent an hour on eBay looking at Return of the Jedi collectibles. And I was like, no, the fan is still there. The fan is still there.
That's right. Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right. I don't have to clutch Star Wars, as a fan. It will always be there. So that was fun.
Good. So you're becoming a Blythe doll. I'm going to start asking people where they're from. Joseph, take us home with something inspiring and better.
I love Jennifer's story, and it's often my story when something is like stressful about kind of modern Star Wars on any level to just sort of reconnect with, some of your origins. Like I have all my action figures looking at me, and every once in a while, because of something going on in a modern time, one of the action figures will become a little menacing or or upsetting, and I try to just stare at them and go like, no, you're here because I love you, and I'm gonna hold on to that, whatever drew me to this in the first place. So for Star Wars Adventures, we had that great live stream on
That's fun.
Friday, and for me it was really nice because we did mostly talk about the Acolyte, and
Hmm.
it was a celebration. It was a little bit of a kind of a morning, and but also in that it was we got to why we continue to do this, which is the conversations about the Acolyte sort of became larger into what choices do we want to make? How do we deal with difficult things? And that I think why I always come back to it is that it is a gateway to think about things that make your own life better, ultimately, the way we talk about it. So the
Hmm.
only other way that Star Wars really found me this weekend, I had good weekend mix of getting cleaning done at the apartment and going to some museums and cocktail bars with my wife. Great. All that kind of stuff. Um, I get lots of emails and advertisements for action figures because the algorithm has my number, and
Yeah.
I've bought things from Entertainment Earth in particular. Entertainment Earth has pretty good tricky emails where they'll send you like, "We think you have such great taste," or "Did you see this? You got it." And one of their favorites is, "Get it. You have such great taste. Get it before it's gone." And like
Mm.
3 times this weekend, I opened up and it was a dead character from the not renewed show Acolyte saying, "Like what you see, get Indara before she's gone." Like, she's gone.
She's good.
She died and she's not coming back to the screen. So,
Oh.
you try to laugh at the pain. You try to
Yeah.
laugh at the pain. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But I did buy a May action figure because I
Mm.
wanted to vote a little bit with money. So that's my final
Yeah.
thought on the Acolyte a week this week is like, I
Yeah.
want to vote a little bit with my money. So I picked up an action figure.
Hey,
Vote of confidence.
yeah, that stuff does kind of make a mark. The view numbers post the big news have gone up. The merch kind of doing the big sell through on the Disney shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something there. That's good. That's good. I do love the pressure that you probably feel when you get an email saying you need to get this figure now. Get it now. Do it.
Do I need to? Yeah.
Do I need to do? Well, there you go. That's our Star Wars Life Adventures. Thank you for helping me work through tough times in
Mm-hmm.
comedy club green rooms. We are going to dive into Star Wars news right now. Like I said up top, I wouldn't say call it a busy Star Wars news week, which is fine, but we always like taking some of the headlines and spinning them out into conversations about being a Star Wars fan and what thoughts we have about that. So we have a little Acolyte news in a way. Keanu Reeves was considered for Master Soul, reads a headline, and the door is still open to future Star Wars projects. This coming from, we're looking at Star Wars Newsnet recapping a story that was out there from an entertainment reporter. Keanu Reeves has long been fan cast in Star Wars. I remember talking about him about 10 years ago about could he fit in. And from a Jedi to Darth Revan, which was strongly rumored, or at least wished into existence was the attempt there. His name has always come up, and such was the alleged case with the Acolyte. Leslie Headland had previously said that Lee Jung-jae was a name she had in mind for the conflicted Jedi Master Soul as she was writing the Acolyte when Squid Game came out. It was kind of having its big zeitgeisty run. But according to the reporting, Reeves was, quote, very interested in the role of Master Soul. This, of course, would have reunited him with his Matrix co-star Carrie-Anne Moss, which was part of the appeal for him, and quite frankly, would be part of the appeal for us. So according to the report, Reeves was never offered the role, but his interest in being cast in a Star Wars project was, and I love this quote, noted by Lucasfilm, as if they're like, we got it. So
We've never heard of this Keanu Reeves fellow, says Lucasfilm. Interesting newcomer.
Yeah, happy birthday to Keanu Reeves. Just turned 60 this weekend. Doesn't look a day over 35. Look, safe to say we're all pretty happy with the performance of Lee Jung-jae. I think he was one of the big highlights for me. Just love what he did, and I never want to speak for you two, but I get a feeling that we're in the same boat there. But what interests us about Keanu and the Acolyte? And by all means, talk about the Master Soul that we did see. Jen, where do you go with this one there?
I am conflicted because I think he would have been great. I also think he would have given protection to the show because he is a legend. He is very well liked. And I think having him in the project could have made the discourse a little bit not quite as angry. You know what I mean? I
It's
kind of,
yeah.
right? I feel like people would have tempered their tone a bit. And certainly have praised his performance. They would have been like, "Oh, he's great," but the show still sucks, right? So I don't know. I think he's so good at tapping into his vulnerability, right? This tenderness, but also like the stoicism, the strength, the badassness. he's just such a wonderful actor, who also
Mm.
can bring humor, which would have been a great pairing with Leslie Headland.
Mhm.
I'm still holding out hope. I'm still holding out hope.
For just an overall season 2 or future project, or just Keanu
Yeah.
showing up in Star Wars with Leslie?
I think he
Both.
will show up in
Both.
Star Wars. Yeah, but both, exactly.
Both.
I'd love to
Both.
see him in Acolyte season 2.
Yeah, love that. Joseph, your thoughts on Keanu Reeves? And all three of us we've lived a life with Keanu, right? Like, he's been around in so many different versions
Yep.
in our pop
Yep.
culture existences.
Breaking news: Keanu Reeves will play Darth Tenebris, buried under Bith makeup. No,
Oh
I
my
can't.
gosh, yeah.
And I do hold out hope for a season 2. It's
Yeah.
never over till it's over.
Yeah.
And Manny Jacinto is clearly saying, holding out hope as well, because he had that very fun answer at Dragon Con of a life goal, season 2 of the Acolyte. This is all fascinating to me. I believe Leslie Headland has, had a quote that all of the actors that she imagined were her first asks, and that she got exactly what she wanted. Maybe there's some spin here. Maybe there's some. I just wanted to kind of throw that out because, these are those kind of headlines that get run with, and there's probably some element of truth to it. But where is the element of truth? Is it that Leslie Headland always wanted Lee Jung-jae, and somebody else in the Lucasfilm machinery is like, we should really consider Keanu? Those things are not mutually exclusive. These two stories. The Keanu of it all. Yeah, I'm interested in him reading the ingredients of a breakfast cereal. I'm interested in him doing anything, but also interested in him in Star Wars. Lee Jung-jae was one of my very, very favorite parts of the Acolyte. I thought he was phenomenal. And I think that I can really see Keanu Reeves in the character the way you were describing, Jennifer, of that great sort of still waters run deep, that obviously extremely proficient, not just a badass, but like extremely precise and proficient, able to play the anger and the vulnerability, all those things. I can see him in the role being absolutely fascinating. I wonder if it would have made the show, in terms of press and in terms of the red carpet and in terms of, frankly, a car video like Ewan McGregor made about Moses Ingram. I think on the sort of the real world press side of it, Keanu Reeves, I think, would have been a staunch defender against the attacks. Watching the show, I wonder if the tragedy of Seoul would have been even harder, because certainly, in different parts of the world, Lee Jung-jae is even more well known than he is here in America. Broke big in Squid Game, but for American audiences, that's not the same as the decades we've lived with Keanu Reeves. If you're our age, or even if you're younger and you rediscovered, wait, John Wick played some kind of doofus in a time travel comedy. I got to go check that out. And he tried to do a British accent in Dracula and accidentally married Winona Ryder. Like, the man's legend is seeped into American consciousness. So I think a lot of audience members, not all, but a lot of audience members had this journey with Soul where, like, he's so likable, and you kind of know, early on, at least halfway through the show, Soul probably did something pretty bad, but you're still pulling for him because you like him so much. I think that part of the tragedy of Soul, where you get to that point of like, even if I can understand why he did it, he did some bad things, and there's no way to zigzag around. This character made some bad mistakes. I think that might have been even harder with our relationship with Keanu Reeves. I think it's why why some creators have resisted casting big name people, and everybody wants big name people now, but George Lucas has said this, David Lynch has said this, other people have said this, like, they don't want an actor that the audience has a meta relationship with. And so the Soul tragedy, I think, would have been even harder with Keanu Reeves if we just had a relationship with him from his films. But Keanu Reeves has also taken on, in all of his press appearances, his talk show appearances in the last 15 years, decade, as this, like, damn, he's a good dude. What is that? That I think that's Stephen Colbert. Like, what do you want to hear when you die? And he answers something like, the sound of those who loved you, or something like. I can't. That's not. I can't remember what it is, but it's some like, beautiful, minimal Zen master. People love him as an actor, but people love the man, Keanu Reeves. So I think the mistakes that Soul made, that would have been extra tragic. And I'm curious to see if that might have made people even more sort of consternated with the show.
It would be as if you found out John Wick killed the dog. Like, no. It would have been tough.
Yeah.
It would have been tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this isn't just a straight comparison. We got a great performance. I think the Master Soul we got, and all the conflicts and the tragedies, just like I said, it's one of my favorite parts of the show. You too as well. But yeah, everything you're saying is right. Of just like, he's such a big personality, and which is funny because I don't think he is a big like he himself. Everything you're talking about. I mean, the fact that sad Keanu on a bench eating a sandwich went from a meme to, oh no, he's just a really normal dude who enjoys a sandwich on a bench.
Yeah, have you never been sat on a bench? Like,
yeah,
I think most of that do that 2 or 3 times a week. You know.
Yeah. And you know, from a life of tragedy, I don't know if there isn't a Keanu doc out there. I'd love one guy. He is a fascinating case, and it isn't just about our generation age, but like we've watched him go from pop culture, whoa, dude, icon, to we all determined he shouldn't work again, right? Like after Much Ado About Nothing, and then Matrix is the comeback. Matrix is a comeback film in a lot of ways for him, and so it's crazy to see this journey. And you're right, all that's gonna show up in a Jedi robe. In many ways, he is a Jedi. He's what we want the Jedi to be. Is Keanu Reeves in real life. Giving his seat up on subways and saying the right things, playing bass in a band. I mean, that's all what things we want a Jedi to do. So you're saying a lot of truth there. It would have been a lot of weight. And I just wonder, the Carrie Ann Moss of it all. I wonder if that's where this all started. If she was cast or she was talked about, and someone said, "Well, what if we got Keanu?" That could have been it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, while I would like to see him in anything, I think I'm kind of glad that he's not Master Soul, because I think it would have added other real world complications, and I think Lee Jung-jae does such an amazing job, and I'm glad for his star to rise, hopefully, and do even more. And I don't need to belabor it, but also like there's a lot of complicated real world politics, Jennifer, that you have spoken very wisely and passionately about, and I think putting a famous, powerful white man in Soul's role would have added to some of those real world dynamics that are in the narrative. I don't need to belabor that, but I think it's important to mention that it does have an impact.
It does indeed. It does indeed. It does indeed. We're so lucky to get what we got from that role and that character. But we could look forward to Keanu in the future. Jen has predicted it here. She's locked it down. He will appear in Star Wars. And so this is fun. I haven't done this kind of, it's a little fan casting, dream casting. I haven't looked at this in a while. Like who or how would you cast Keanu Reeves in a future Star Wars project, Jen? We have, Darth Tenebrous is perfect. Just hide him behind that mask.
He would do it, man. People would be so mad.
Don't you dare. Oh my gosh, I swear to God. Put him in a helmet. Yeah.
Put him in a helmet.
Okay. No, I would cast him, obviously, season 2 of The Acolyte. I think it's so predictable for him to be a Jedi. Which is why Master Soul would have been good, because it is a very conflicted character, right?
Right.
I think he's at the point in his career now. He's been at the point where he just wants to have fun. Like I was thinking about that movie, Always Be My Maybe, with Ali Wong. And it's just such a fun role for him. And so I think playing more of a villain, Darth Revan, I like that. Just something a little bit more unexpected. And I think he wouldn't have cared that he would have died as Master Soul. I think the audience obviously would have cared, but I think he would have that would have appealed to him. Right. Just to do something different. So maybe being a baddie. That's my vote.
I like that. And look, if he was Darth Revan, I know there's a lot to that character, and the character goes in a lot of different directions. He would have brought some of that humanity to a dark side journey that I think we even got in Acolyte. So that would have been good. But I agree with you there. I'm looking at kind of against type. He is, like I said earlier, a Jedi through and through. But he's done comedy, he's done romance, he's done a lot. He's been around a lot. He's even robbed banks. Like he's done it all. And I think I go to that Point Break kind of vibe. I would love him. We always talk about here, like we did the big conversation about stoic characters, and he could play stoic with the best of them. But, I'll say, dare say, quote unquote, Han Solo type, but that scoundrel type. Heart of gold, something's there, but he's making his way through the galaxy. Maybe he's wisecracking. Hell, put him with Alex Winter in a mask. Alex Winter can be his Chewie. Like, let's find some way to reunite Bill and Ted in Star Wars. But I would like to explore that, where a little bit of a zippy guy. A guy who's got a zinger and he's got a blaster, and he's going to use both in the galaxy, is my first thought. And it's just a simple against typecast kind of decision. But I think he would want to sink his teeth into it just like a sandwich on a bench in Central Park. Joseph, where do you go? Where do you dream up Keanu Reeves in Star Wars?
Yeah, no, he can go a lot of different ways because his image has changed and morphed over the years as he's done different roles. And I totally agree with Jennifer. I think he would have. I think it would have been great, and I think he would have enjoyed the role. It's just my own feelings about how it might have been received. Also, if people think 180 million is was expensive for the Acolyte, but you might have gone a little higher with Keanu. Might have gone a little higher. You never know. My main thing I wanted to see him in is a major role. I really loved Carrie-Anne Moss in the Acolyte, but I think it worked well. But I would have taken even more. I can see something like he's in The Mandalorian and Grogu, but he's in it for 5 minutes as a fun side character, and that would be fun. But I'd rather have a project where he is like one of the main people. He does have all the great Jedi stuff, all of the great Still Waters Run Deep vibe. I'm all for questioning the Jedi. I'm all for pointing out that they are, human and human-like beings who make mistakes. But I am hungry for a Jedi who succeeds in walking the noble path that they set for themselves story. So I would like to see. We've seen many Star Wars kind of riffs on Seven Samurai. I would like to see a Star Wars riff on One Samurai, where it's just Keanu Reeves as a noble Jedi defending a large community by himself, pretty much. I think that would be really cool.
And he's like hurt. He's a little injured.
Oh, yeah.
He shows up. He crashes. Something's gone on. He's got.
Yeah.
I like this.
But I also agree with both of you. Like, let's not just sell him down the Jedi River. He can do a lot of things. There was I think it was made for Netflix, maybe Amazon. I don't remember. There was a movie called Destination Wedding with him and Winona Ryder, which is just like sort of sort of middle-aged romantic comedy about two weird sort of misanthropes who find each other with just like endless dialogue. And it was kind of great because he's a little bit playing against type of like, I'm kind of a cranky misanthrope who does not stop talking. So not really nice, peaceful guy who only says a few words, but, Grump, who won't shut up in Destination Wedding, which is fascinating. He pulls it off great. All the charm is there. So I would love to see him as like a different type of scoundrel, like a Han Solo type who just won't shut up about his philosophy of the galaxy.
Yeah, this is perfect. You got the lone Ronin trying to defend a village, and just cast Lawrence Fishburne in it. It's something, just as some, a Jedi ghost, his former master in ghost form. I don't know, it's something like that. Let's just go all the way. But no, I like what you're saying. Actually, I do remember seeing that movie you're talking about pop up as a thumbnail as I scroll by. But now I think I want to cast my vote for watching middle-aged rom-coms with two performers who have gone through the ringer in pop culture, up and down, and right now up, which is fun.
Yeah, I think it's got middling reviews. I think it's not for everybody, but I like it. I like Destination Wedding a lot.
But that's what I like about those rom-coms on a streamer. If you're going to I want it to be like not the best and far from the worst. I just like that. I like that. It's not a Hallmark movie. It's not Pretty Woman. It's just somewhere right there in the 80% range. I'll take that. I'll take that. Final thought about this here, a little fun thought. Carrie-Anne Moss, her and Dara was definitely influenced by the character of Trinity. It was one of my favorite moments leading up to the launch of the show was Leslie Headland going, "Oh yeah, no, it's not just kind of like Trinity, it's Trinity." Like that, yes. What do you think? I'm crazy? I got Carrie Ann Moss. I'm going to do this. So a reunion with Keanu would have definitely made everyone think of The Matrix, without a doubt, as we're talking about it. So I wanted to ask you all, what other film duos or casts would you want to see in Star Wars, but reunited in a way from another project that maybe put them on the map or made them superstars? Jen, do you have any options roaming around your head there?
Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Yes.
Martin Short, Steve Martin.
This is great.
Mindy Kaling and Reese Witherspoon, because they were in Wrinkle of Time together. Donald Glover and Maya Erskine. If you haven't seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith,
right?
Oh my gosh, you gotta watch it. It's a great show. I forget what network it was streaming on. They are fantastic together. Fantastic. And so obviously Donald Glover would have to be Lando.
Well, again, I think we mentioned before, like her character from Kenobi. There you go. They're cast. Right. They're in it. Put them together. They got it. They got eight episodes to figure it out.
Those are my votes.
That's great. I love all that.
I have a follow-up question, because Steve Martin and Martin Short are a great pick. I think one of the most powerful duos in modern cinema history and television history. What kind of roles would you cast them in? What kind of a Star Wars show would you put them in?
I see like a Pelimoto type characters, or like Princess Bride type characters, Billy Crystal and
Carol Kane,
Carol Kane, thank you.
Oh yeah,
like that, where they're just like there's Traveler, maybe they're in the Mandoverse, right? And like Grogu and Mando, maybe the Mando movie. Grogu and Mando are on their journey and they stumble upon these two, I don't know, weird Force users who whip up their magic.
Yeah, I always see them going from space village to space village, selling some medicine, little grifters, the old school kind of grifters coming to town. That'd be kind of fun.
Oh yeah, they could put on a little show. Yeah, and Din would not be buying it.
I would.
Your elixir doesn't work. Yeah, I like that. There, those are some great choices there. I'll toss mine in there. I'm going to go to an obvious spot for me if you follow along the things I love. I do want to reunite most of my Young Guns cast. So I want to have Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Christian Slater, Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh, Alan Ruck, and Charlie Sheen died in the first one. We're okay. Just take them and make them kind of. Keanu could be the lead, so that's not a Young Guns reunion, but just have them as kind of these regulators who are scoundrels. They're scum, but maybe they're fighting for the right thing, and it's not necessarily a correct historic version of the story, but there's some truth to some of the things going on there. The Santa Fe Ring, the big local power, oppressing everyone around them, destroying farmers' lands. Like they could be fighting the good cause, but just wrapped up in the dirty cloak of bad guys or outlaws. So regulators, mount up, and may the force be with you. That's the first big place I'd go. Joseph, do you have any names? And I'll toss them all.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, now you got me adding more, because I really love Kiefer Sutherland. 24 is a complex show that came out at a complex time in the world, but I did enjoy it. Yeah. I choose to believe it exists in a fantasy version of the world, not a real version. But Kiefer's great, and I really liked the gentleman who played the president for many seasons. David Palmer was the character's name. Haspert, I believe.
David, absolutely. Dennis Haspert, yeah.
Dennis Haysbert, yes. Dennis Haysbert. Right. So yeah, I'd throw
out to
Kiefer,
Major League, yeah.
Kiefer and Dennis back together. That would be great. Then I went to some of my other fandoms. The relatively recent Doctor, the 13th Doctor, and one of her primary companions, who people shipped, and then they did have a little bit of a spark in the actual show. Jodie Whittaker and Mandip Gill. I would love to see Jodie Whittaker. She gets a fan cast as Avar Kriss a lot, because the cover art does look a little like Jodie, so that would be great. If it seems like Disney a lot of times tries to keep things in the family. Like, if we already have a good relationship with the big name actor, we'll try to shift him over to a different franchise. So the Captain America films are my favorite of the Marvel films. So put Chris Evans and Haley Atwell back together. Get a little Steve and Peggy Star Wars romance going. Why not?
Both of them at Star Wars would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. I got two more
Okay.
that I'll spit out and then get it back to you, Ken.
Yeah.
I deeply want Kyle MacLachlan in Star
Mhm.
Wars, Agent Cooper, and many of the mayor on Portlandia. Many roles, but phenomenal.
Mm.
And he's often over the years worked with Laura Dern, so I
Mm.
mean, maybe he could just be
Right.
pals with Holdo. Or I could pair him with Heather Graham, who Agent Cooper falls in love with at the end of the Twin Peaks series.
Oh yeah. I forget that she kind of I
Yeah,
wouldn't say
no, it's what
yeah
one of her
earlier.
one of her earlier roles. Final one is because I'm a big fan of the Scream franchise. Nev Campbell and Skeet Ulrich, get
Mm.
get those two back together,
Yeah.
and have them be in a real like Bonnie and Clyde Star Wars heist movie.
I absolutely love that idea. Those are some good ones there. I was going to go full pop culture and go to I'm going to Big Lebowski, one of my all-time favorites.
Ooh,
But
yeah.
I want Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, and throw in Steve Buscemi there. Just the three of
Oh
them
my god.
being some space bowling alley. They could be the Barflies in the Outlander Club, or some Mando and Grogu walk into some. I don't need them to be leads. Just they walk into some outside of the outer rim kind of bar, and they're there as well. I would love to do that. I would love. You've got Favreau already. He's all in and about Star Wars. Make him voice Rio Durant, but I want, and it's obviously we're looking at a solo prequel. But then I want Vince Vaughn to like be his buddy, like how they met Tobias Beckett and Val. And I want to reunite Swingers. I'll go there as well. And I'm trying to think if there's any other big ones that I'm leaving, but that's kind of where I'd go with that one there. Just have some
Yeah.
fun. I like that stuff. Like getting Christopher Lloyd in Mando was great, and it worked for me. I got to hear Christopher Lloyd say Count Dooku and talk about separatist Star Wars. But if you had thrown Michael J. Fox in there for a shot as well, found a way to do that, I would have been equally as happy. So
These
there
are
you
great
go.
picks. Great picks.
Great picks, fan casting, always fun, and this is inspired by Keanu Reeves maybe being in Stars. But I think I agree with you, Jen. One day see him in Star Wars there. All right. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we do have some news that comes from a pretty good source. We got Ahsoka Season 2 news coming this way. Stick around for more ForceCenter. And we are back here on ForceCenter, taking a look at all the news, breaking news from a long time ago. And that is this weekend, Ahsoka Season 2 news emerging from DragonCon. DragonCon, I've never been, but Joseph, you tell me if I'm wrong. It's known for fun, cosplay, and drunken escapades. Is that correct?
That is very correct, and I think a lot of people know this about DragonCon. But just in case people don't know, like Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con is like a convention for the companies. The companies come. Lucasfilm will put on a panel, or Marvel will put on a panel. DragonCon is a party for the fans and a machine for the actors to make money. So when you see these panels, those actors are there because when they're done with the panel, they're going to go to the autograph hall and they're going to clean up. I believe this story is Patrick Stewart's son convinced him to go at one point, and they took cash and had like a Jerry Lewis comedy of errors, trying to leave the hotel with suitcases with like dollar bills sticking out.
Oh my gosh.
There's an economy to the autograph section. I can't name any names, but people tried to charge less and come over and get talked to by other people. Like, there's an economy here. You can't charge that. I will say this because it's nothing but funny and charming. The first time I went to DragonCon, I got picked up in the shuttle and rode with Lou Ferrigno, who is very friendly. But he asked me, he just said, "Where do you sit?" And I was like, I don't know what you mean, Mr. Ferrigno. I'm sitting in this shuttle with you. And he's like, "No, at the convention. Where do you sit?" And it was because from his perspective, the entire point of the convention is where in the autograph hall do you sit all weekend and collect money? So DragonCon is a different kind of convention, and these panels that these quotes are coming from are something that the actors do a couple of, and then they're back to the autograph hall to rake it in.
There you go. Yeah, one day I'll get there. One day I'll get there. The Dragon Con itself is full of so many stories that become urban legends. I remember hearing one about 2012 where I went, they did what? I've got to get to Dragon Con. One day, well, right now I live vicariously through Alex and Molly Damon. I was texting them all this past weekend to check on their well-being. They had a great time. But out of this wonderful convention that's been around for a very long time, some Star Wars news emerged from one of those panels. Natasha Liu Bordizzo was on a big panel at Dragon Con, one that also featured Manny Jacinto, and where he said his dream of season 2 of Acolyte. And she talked about when Ahsoka season 2 might begin filming. She says the show will be shooting by, quote, summer of 2025, but not until principal photography for The Mandalorian and Grogu film is done. Again, this is not official news. That could change. I remember there was some Game of Thrones news that emerged at a panel one time that was a complete fabrication unintentionally by an actor who just hadn't fully understood what he was talking about. But this is pretty direct, and I would think she is aware of when they're going to shoot, but it's unofficial. We'll address it from that. But what is your gut reaction to that news? Is this show going to actually happen? I think, yes, I think it is, but sometimes the changing landscape, I sometimes wonder if we're going to get a season 2 or get it anytime soon. And that does keep Ahsoka, Sabine, and others out of the movie, potentially. There's ways to do it, but it doesn't seem like Mandalorian and Grogu would be the spot to do it. So we'll start with the gut reaction to that news, Joseph.
I think the one thing I would say is I couldn't find any video of this. In many other clips, like the fun Manny one, there's another fun one with Manny Jacinto and Natasha Liu Bordizzo. Maybe it's out there. So just like a note of caution, that this is one of those you click this tweet and it leads to another tweet and it leads to another tweet kind of thing. I'm sure it was said, but I haven't found any video. So a note of caution. For me, my gut reaction is that I think Ahsoka season 2 is absolutely going to happen because I think that they can't pump the brakes that much. I think even if they're afraid this is not going to be the model we want to keep doing, it's Filoni. They've really put a lot behind Ahsoka as a face of the franchise. That they've been putting out that these Epic Heroes line of action figures, which is just the really simple action figures to try to get actual children to play with action figures. And I apologize to the children. I've been buying your action figures. But Ahsoka, like the first run is like Luke, Vader, a Stormtrooper, Din, Ahsoka, and Grogu. Like they've really positioned Ahsoka as one of the faces of the franchise. So I just think they've invested too much in Filoni and Ahsoka. I think season 2 will happen. Timeline makes perfect sense to me in terms of getting the show out. The one other kind of big picture thought that I have about it is with the idea of the principal photography wouldn't start until Mandalorian and Grogu is done. I wonder if that is an acknowledgement of stretching teams too thin. That's been a talking point, in particular with Marvel, in particular with the special effects, and with also, Feige having some mea culpa. Maybe we didn't all, as a team, give every show all of the attention and love it deserved because it was moving too fast. So for me, that was in some ways the most interesting part of it, to say, like, is this a pumping the brakes of we can't be making too many things at a time? We need the entire team to be focused on this. And once that's production's done, then we can really focus on Ahsoka.
Yeah, I could see that too. All of it does kind of certainly make sense there. Jen, gut reaction on this news about possibly. Yeah, in terms of video footage, I saw her talking about Shin being one of the reasons to go to the dark side, but not this. But Jen, your gut reaction to this news.
Yeah, I think it does make sense time-wise. It's not that far away. I mean, we're already almost at the end of 2024.
Stop that.
I know. I'm like, it's Halloween. That's how I already feel. So yeah, like timeline-wise, this makes sense. I think we're absolutely getting to season 2. Joseph, you're so right. Ahsoka is because along with Grogu and Mando, the face of this new era, she's on Star Tours. Oops, spoiler alert. She just has a real presence at Disneyland. So they're going to continue banking on it. I think it's obviously Filoni, and they want to make it happen. And I think fans really like the show. So good for them. Sorry. I mean, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it's good to have this show that fits a need. And I think you're right, though, about about the teams being stretched too thin. I do think, when I look at Apple's slate, it's kind of amazing, right? Because Apple TV, they just have so much freaking money to just be able to do whatever they want. And I think even though this is Disney, like Lucasfilm is a smaller company and they do have their core people. And I think that's good. But I do think it reflects this new era of streaming. And I think it's only reason why this is going forward is because it is like this kind of new legacy character. I think we're going to see a lot less shows. That's my instinct.
Yeah, no, I mean I've been saying that. This has been my last 2-3 weeks. No more live action coming for TV after this. And that's why I raised doubt on this. I think it's going to happen. Do I think the man in the cowboy hat is going to let his show go away? No, I think he's going to fight to the death over that. But there's a changing landscape that's changing fast. But that also means it could swing the other way, and you can get Ahsoka season 2, 3, and 7. The way we're going.
It might be that if the story is continuing past season 2 and not going straight into the Filoni movie, that there's yes, we are committing to this and we're going to turn these around faster. I do think that they're going to continue to do live action shows. I don't think they can afford not to. I just think they're going to do them at a much slower pace and not have as many. I think they just fell in love with the fireworks display of. We announced 18 shows, and I don't think that's going to be happening as much. But I think they're going to keep being live action shows, just much slower.
Yeah, much slower, which leads to the next question. The earliest Ahsoka season 2 will come out is summer 2026. That would be about a 3-year gap of continuing the story, and I want some thoughts on that. But I also asked the sub question to myself. I don't like that. And I get frustrated at that. This also ties into cool, House of Dragon season 2 just ended. Now I got 2 years to wait. Rings of Power. I love the first 3 episodes of Rings of Power season 2. I do not sleep on that show, folks. It's spectacular. It's going to wrap up, and I don't know when it's going to come back. And it's got 5 seasons guaranteed. And I struggle with that. But is that just me holding on to an old TV release schedule? Should I just look at it as a movie? I had to wait 3 years between other properties. Phantom Menace to Attack the Clones comes to mind. Attack the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. So it's not abnormal in terms of story. I'm just so used to it's TV. September, it all comes back, right? What are we doing here? So what's your thought on the schedule releases? And am I wrong and just an angry old man, Jen?
No, I remember the days of the upfronts? Do you remember that?
Yes,
or even
upfronts.
Pilot season as an actor, it was pilot season. Well, that's all pretty much gone. So everything that we knew is basically dead. So looking at, I think the hype around the Mando movie. This is my theory. I think Disney is trying to starve us. I think that we've been gorging ourselves on Star Wars deliciousness. And a lot of us are thrilled with that. But I think the numbers are not reflecting the way that Disney would like. I think they're going to starve us for Star Wars content until 2026, where we're so hungry and desperate for anything. We're going to go see the Mando movie. We're going to watch the show. And I think that the hype around Mando will potentially help the Ahsoka show. The one thing I do wonder is, for me personally, the Ahsoka show felt really inside baseball. I feel like if you didn't know the Clone Wars, you didn't know a lot of the history, you might have had a harder time getting into the show. So that's kind of why I think maybe they might have a presence, Ahsoka and Sabine, in the Mando movie to kind of maybe bridge that gap. I don't know. I just think we're going to be hungry. We're going to be hungry for the next couple of years.
I don't disagree with that. I just had a conversation, not the green room conversation. I had a conversation with a friend in the industry who just told me point blank, it's just been too much Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I understand it because I'm feeling a little bit of a malaise right now, but I don't think a lot of people would agree with you on that. I think we can handle 2 or 3 shows a year, but again, there's this big. We've been having this conversation on and off air for the last couple of years, and they were just like, yeah, no, it's too much. It's too much. But that's someone who grew up with waiting 3 years between movies and waiting 18 years between movies. So I do like what you're saying, Jen, about starving us to feed us again and starting it all again in summer of 2026. Joseph, your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think in terms of are you a cranky old man, which is the most important thing.
That's true.
Only you know these truths, Ken. No, I think that the model depends on what I think the companies want the shows to be. I've talked about this before. There's the Big Finish audio company who makes Doctor Who audios, and they pump those out. There's so many. There's so many, and they're going on 25 years now. But they have a dedicated audience, and it's enough to make this an incredibly successful niche. And nobody's going like, oh no, this latest audio with 90-year-old Tom Baker didn't blow the doors off the place, because they're not trying to. They're surviving on a niche model. And I think those of us who are kind of all in on Star Wars, spend a lot of time talking about it, thinking about it. We can absorb lots of Star Wars and often want to absorb lots of Star Wars. But I don't think that's what the company wants. I think the company is okay with maybe an animated series being a little bit of a niche market.
Right.
I don't think they're okay with the brand of Star Wars becoming a niche market. And I think that is what a part of the pump and the brakes is about. It's the money of the streaming model, but it's also like, we want this to be top shelf. You wait for it, you pine for it, you pay for it, you spend a lot of time talking about it, and you don't move on for a little while and kind of reinstate that part of Star Wars. So to me, that the business model part of it makes sense to slow down. In terms of Ahsoka specifically and the sort of like the model, like I think the three of us are all tried to be very good about change is natural and change happens, and but I think we can yell at clouds selectively.
Selective cloud yelling.
Are you yelling at a cloud just because it changed, right? Like, I'd prefer that people still did email, but people prefer texts, even for business. And that's like, hey, things change. I'm going to stop yelling at that cloud. The 3 years in between, I don't think that's yelling at a cloud just because things changed. I think there's real concrete reasons that a 3-year wait isn't great. I think it makes it harder to keep the momentum and to keep the enthusiasm in between television shows. I think it makes it even harder to draw in casual fans. I agree with you, Jennifer. When Ahsoka was coming out, I was kind of joking that the show should almost have like a lore rating, and I think Andor was successful because it was a G, maybe a PG. You really didn't need to know much to get into Andor. I personally think Ahsoka is like an NC-17 of lore.
Of lore.
I want to fully acknowledge, because every time we talk about this, we hear stories from people of like, I introduced my friend to it who's never seen Star Wars and they loved it. Right. So that's clearly not universal. That's a my opinion thing, and there are plenty of people who find Ahsoka incredibly accessible. But I do think it does bank on characters, and it banks on kind of complex and interesting ideas. This isn't just what are Ahsoka and Sabine up to now. This is they're building a new world in a new galaxy, and you kind of need to know that a new galaxy is important. And who is Balin? What is his mysterious past? And he was recast. And what is Mortis? And why do they want to go there? And how do the show has a lot in it that's sort of lore based and waiting even longer. If you got somebody brand new to Star Wars hooked on Ahsoka, and season 2 came out the next year, I think there's a lower bar to entry. But those people who are already like, oh yeah, I read up on Rebels and I watched this and I enjoyed it, and then they're like, what happened? Who are all these people? I think there's a higher cost to reset the longer these gaps are.
I mentioned the Rings of Power one. That actually wasn't a long gap. Like it was last year, season 1, and now we got season 2. What wasn't a long time. I had to do a refresh. My fiance, who's a giant Lord of the Rings fan, is like not watching it. She's just like, I don't remember what happened. That's not just pop. That's like life. We're like, you're joking, Jen. We're zooming into Halloween. Like I think we're all just inundated with so much information that to pull it apart sometimes to sit down. That's where I fear that you could lose momentum 3 years. Where even a season 1 to season 2 that only had a year gap was almost overwhelming for even me to be like, wait, and I didn't remember all those subplots, and I did a rewatch of Rings and was thankful for it heading into season 2. So I think it's just something else, and that's not something any of these properties or companies can change. It's just the world we live in now. I can't remember the TikTok video I watched yesterday and all the information. But it'll come back when it does come back, summer 2026. Jen, a feast will be had. It will be the summer of Mando and Grogu and Sabine and Ahsoka. So that's definitely not a bad thing as well. And that was kind of my sub question there. This will make, as I said, 2026 very full. Return to theaters, which is big. That's a big thing we can't overlook, and a big step forward in the New Republic era. So looking ahead from 2026 on in terms of storytelling, the properties. Jen, I know you're going to, even then, if you don't get it, you're still going to be hashtagging Acolyte Season 2 as you should. And there's still always hope. There's hope for other projects and other things, and the business can swing many different directions. But jump ahead to 2026. Your thoughts on a big return there, that full meal like you're talking about.
I think it's going to be a reset. And I think being in the New Republic era, I think that they're going to hang out there. I think one of the challenges is that we've been bouncing around in the timeline. And if you're trying to enter into these stories, you're like, wait, when does this happen? When does Andor take place? When does this show take place? So if we just hang out there, that could be more welcoming for people. I really am struggling with Star Wars and what the future is going to be because of the business. And I keep coming back to this. I had a conversation with my friends who have kids around my daughter's age, 9, 10 years old. Their kids don't want to go to the movies. They have no desire to go to the movies. My kids have no real desire to go to the movie theater. Me, I want to go to the movie theater. Star Wars could be a draw for kind of like the older generation to take their family to the movie theater. So does Star Wars bank on only putting out movies and making these big events? Or does Star Wars say, you know what, the kids are now watching shows, they're watching streaming, they're on their phones. Do they plug in all their money there? And so I don't know. This will be an interesting test to see how Mando and Grogu do in the theater, and then seeing if Ahsoka can be a big splash as well. I don't know what's going to happen. Who knows what will happen in 2 years in the industry as well.
Yeah, that emotional connection. Yeah, no, you're raising up some good points there, and I'll pass it to you here, Joseph. But yeah, I'm getting grumpy about the streaming wars. Adam Conover just put a great video last week about a 20-minute essay. Conover can be an acquired taste for some. Nice guy. Been on some shows with him. Good stuff. Love this video. He just nailed in 20 minutes why I'm always so grumpy about this disruption becoming destruction of this model, and why it's not necessarily built for long term. But you're right, Jen. I don't go to theaters. I'll go back for Mando and Grogu. So do they market it as a bring your family, friends, rent a theater, buy 30 tickets, come out, see Star Wars in the theater? Do they market that? Time will tell on that. So I don't know. But Joseph, your thoughts? Answer the tough business question. Solve it right here, right now.
Well, I want to go watch that video. I had Adam on my old podcast, Obsessed, and he was very charming and very dedicated to his mission of finding the facts and breaking things down. That was out of almost 9-10 years of doing Obsessed, he was one of the most obsessed people who had found the correct life path for himself, and I say that as a good thing. So I can't wait to check that out. I think that 2026 being a full return and a big step forward is great. I have a feeling that by 2026, there's going to be some course correction on streaming, the streaming model sort of cannibalizing the theatrical model. I think that there's a chance for a film like Mando and Grogu to plant the flag and be like, we're telling you right now, it's not going to be on streaming for 6 months. If you want to be a part of the cultural conversation, go out and be a part of this community. I think that's a huge part of what has happened to movie theaters. There's all it's expensive, problems with the economy, people on their phones, all that stuff is great. Or not great. It's awful. It's accurate that those are obstacles to returning to the theater. But I think also it's not just the negatives, it's the absence of the positive. And the positive of the movie theater was, hey, if you want to if all of your friends are talking about E.T. when I was on the playground, when I was a young man and in the bars, all your friends are talking about The Matrix. And if you want to be a part of the conversation, go have this community experience in a theater. And I think that's what we're missing, because people are like, well, I can wait a week and pay $20 and buy it on streaming and still be a part of the conversation. And I know many people like that, and it benefits many people. So again, I want to acknowledge that people have different opinions, but I think that's what needs to happen for Star Wars to feel like an event again, is make it an event. Make it that you have to go to the theater to be a part of the excitement over Mando and Grogu.
Yeah.
Like Barbie. Make a
Barbie.
Star Wars Barbie.
Make Star Wars Barbie. There's a new hashtag that won't get any negative reaction from anyone.
My new hashtag. Hashtag
Yeah.
Star Wars Barbie.
I think in terms of just the general, like, what is too much Star Wars? I think, if 2026 has a live action show in Ahsoka, it has Mando and Grogu, an animated show, I think those are at different levels. And I think they can if they can kind of separate it out and go, the movie's the big event. And the TV's like, the live action TV is like quite nice. And then the animated show might be your favorite, but it's intended for a niche audience. I think they really need to rebuild what the intention is of the success level of these shows.
Yes.
Yeah. Set your intentions, kids. It's almost New Year. Set your intentions. There you go.
Yeah.
And like you said, Joseph acknowledges a lot of opinions about the entertainment industry, inside and out of it, and it's a weird landscape, as we've said here, in this town. That was a depressing conversation Friday too. After the Star Wars depression, there was also everyone just going, "Yeah, I haven't worked in 2 years." Yeah, me either. My agent told me to move out of the city. Like, oh boy. So we're carrying a lot of that into it. But hey, the big lesson to learn is at Dragon Con, fun things happen. That's what you should take from this news item there. All right. I think that's it. Any final thoughts on the news? Any final thoughts on this? Jen, are we ready to wrap it up and head on home?
No, hashtag save the acolyte, renew the acolyte. The Manny Jacinto, I was going to say panel. It was not a panel. He was on it. But I was just like, And I once again, I don't know if there was video of him saying that it's like they're fighting for the show or something like that, or if that was taken out of context.
I saw
was that taken out of context?
No, I know. I saw the quote. I didn't see him say it. But I didn't see it out. But
But I was like, oh, come on, Keanu, board season 2 so we can greenlight it. Because I guarantee you, if he was on board for season 2 and took a salary cut, they would absolutely greenlight season 2.
I can see that.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. I would love that. Yeah, I'm all about that. My only final thought, Ken, is with all this talk about 2026 and what's the right amount of Star Wars, it's great if 2026 is hey, we're back in movie theaters, and here's our legacy thing with our face of Star Wars. One of the faces of Star Wars is Ahsoka, and really put their backs in it. That's all great. They got to build up for 2027 because I do not want them to let the 50th sail by with a documentary and a Lego special. No burn against the Lego specials. No. But sometimes when the press releases are like, we got to celebrate this big event. Here's a 20-minute Lego special. And like, the Lego specials are great. 50 years of Star Wars. It's probably not going to happen, but I want that Rey and the New Jedi Order film in theaters for 2027. I want some kind of new show. I want a groundbreaking documentary, something special. I want the new Ewok movie with Steve Martin and Martin Short. I want on Disney Plus. I want them. 2026 is a return, but it's also a ramp for me. I want them to make a lot of the 50th anniversary.
I agree. I don't just want some exclusive towel sold at a convention or something like that.
Exactly, right?
It's the Star Wars 50th tumbler glass set. No. Do something more.
No.
I agree with that there. Well, there you have it. We have taken a look at the news, the Star Wars news, and a fun discussion to be had in all the headlines there. We are ForceCenter. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We're available in a lot of spots as a podcast. Just search. You'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. We do have a fourth wall shop. I do think the links drop down below in some of the YouTube videos. I do have to correct something on the back end. Setting up a new shop is difficult and easy all at the same time. Patreon.com/ForceCenter is where you can support us directly. You can follow me at CatNapsock or go to my website, catnapsock.com for more. Link to all the things I do, shows, podcasts, radio show coming back. More information on that soon. If you're a fan of pop rock and radio, it will actually be on the radio in Pennsylvania. So there you go. For a very small niche audience in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Jen, where can they find and follow you?
You can see me going on some Halloween adventures, trying to decorate my house at Jennifer Landa on most social media sites and at Jennifer Landa 1138 on TikTok.
There you go. Joseph, take us home, sir, where you're at and all the fun can be found.
Yeah, you can find me on all the social media at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can check out my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for links to lots of things coming up. The short film I made, The Narrator, starring Phil Lamar, is going to be at the Palm Springs International Comedy Festival at the end of September. I got my blog, Finish Your Monsters. I'm going to be a little late this week, catching up from Labor Day. I'm going to have some news about the other film that I'm working on in that blog this week. So if you are wanting to keep up with those film adventures, check out the blog, Finish Your Monsters. That's it for me.
That's it for us. We'll see you in Palm Springs in September, maybe. All right. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.